Hi guys, welcome to the KnowItToo podcast. Today has been a good day, and as usual, I will not be alone on set. So I have with me a special guest here, and I would really like for him to just introduce himself.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you. My name is Madu Kingsley. I'm a registered nurse and also an entertainer.
okay. So
Yep.
when you say you're an entertainer, are you a musician? Are you a
Uh,
dancer? What
I'm a
exactly are you
musician and
into?
also a music producer.
Okay,
Yep,
okay. So if we have any music gig for you to produce any song, we can also
definitely.
call you. All right,
Definitely.
all right.
Thank
So
you.
we'll just get right into what we have to discuss today. And this is a problem in our society, a health related problem in our society. And the sad part is that it's not just affecting some set of people
Okay.
alone, it's affecting everybody. But today, I would like for us to focus on the youths versus this particular disease. So that disease is diabetes. Okay.
Okay.
And one thing I've understood is that different people have different misconceptions about diabetes. But one thing I always hear people talk about as regards diabetes is whenever you ask them anything about diabetes, or I'm checking your blood sugar and I'm seeing this value, it seems like you might be having this. They mention that, oh, I don't eat sugar, I don't eat anything that is sweet, I don't think. So I really want you to shed more light to this thing called diabetes. What exactly is it?
Okay. Diabetes mellitus, like we all know, or like most of us know, is a disease that has to do with sugar. Okay, so it's a metabolic disorder, and it's actually a serious condition because basically the body uses sugar, the cells use sugar, glucose. In fact, the glucose is like the fuel
For the
for the
body,
body,
yeah.
you get, and it's being used by the cells themselves, you get. So um when someone has diabetes, it means that the person's cells are not getting
The
glucose.
glucose.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's just the basic explanation of diabetes mellitus.
Okay.
Yeah.
So rather than the cells having the glucose going into them, they are just present in the bloodstream.
Yes,
They're just
yes.
present in the bloodstream and they are not being moved into
Moved
the
into the
cells.
cells.
Like
Yes.
you rightly said, the glucose is actually the energy that our body requires. It gives the body the energy it requires so that we can perform our daily activities. So
Yes.
it's really
Yes.
a problem, and there's so many other things that this particular disease could affect. But I want us to just take it step by step, okay?
Okay.
So I know that there are different types of diabetes. Okay, so especially the one that affects the youths, I would like for us to shed more light to it. So maybe you could just um take us through the types of diabetes and
Okay. Basically, there are two types currently. We have the type one and the type two. So the type one is called insulin dependent diabetes. And what
yeah,
happens is that insulin is a hormone that is in the body. That's the hormone that helps the body or the cells to use this glucose.
yeah,
It's like, let me say, there is a border between the cells and the bloodstream. So the insulin acts on this border to allow the cells to use glucose. You get.
yeah,
So insulin is produced by the pancreas. So in this type one, the pancreas is not producing or is not releasing insulin.
yeah.
So you see the glucose is there in the bloodstream. Even when you eat, you get more glucose, you get more sugar in your bloodstream, but your cells don't use this sugar,
Yeah.
which is actually the basic requirement for these cells you get. So that is the type 1 diabetes. There is no insulin, there is sugar actually, but there is no insulin to
To
convert this
move it
sugar
into the
to the form that the
cells.
cells can use. Okay.
Yeah.
Then the type 2 is insulin resistant, and that is where there can be little quantity of insulin. The pancreas actually secretes insulin, but the cells, this what I call a border or boundary, the barrier, it doesn't allow
Yeah. It's
the
not taking up.
insulin to
Yeah.
work
To work.
appropriately.
Yeah.
You get. So there is insulin, there is sugar, but the cells cannot use the sugar. So
Okay.
that's type 2 diabetes.
Now, when you were talking about insulin and the border, the cells, and the bloodstream, I had a picture of a conductor in a yellow bus, like these normal downfall buses that we have
Yeah.
around. So I have the picture of a conductor trying to get passengers into the bus. So I
Mm.
think that's where the insulin comes out. As the
Yeah.
conductor, people are outside, a whole lot of people are outside and he's trying to call in people.
Exactly.
And then the
Exactly.
bus is the cells that would take the energy and make
Yes.
the
Yes.
person or the body to use the insulin as necessary. Thank you so much, Madu, for that explanation. And
You're
I'm very
welcome.
sure that our viewers would have understood. It is also very, very simple to understand.
Yep.
Okay, so based on this now, we can understand that this diabetes is not just a thing of, oh, I don't take sugar, I use
No, no,
agbo, I
no.
cleanse my system, I don't take sugar. Even though, yes, I mean, excessive consumption of sugar to also predisposes to that, especially when, or rather, when the organ, that's the pancreas,
Yeah.
that is supposed to secrete this insulin, when it's not working as much, you see that when people consume excessive sugary food substances, there'll be a whole lot of this
It
glucose, yes,
accumulates.
accumulation of this glucose in the
Yeah.
bloodstream. Yeah. So eventually, there is still an insidious problem. There's still something that is happening within the body that is just beyond saying, I am not consuming sugar. Okay, so now we would be streamlining it to our youths now. So, what is the cost of the rising prevalence of diabetes amongst the youths? Of recent, I saw a study that Guardian newspaper produced just this year, and one of the consultants at Lutz that is involved in endocrinology, that's the system that has to do with all of this diabetes and insulin and all of that.
Hormones, you know,
So they mentioned that youths are coming down with this
diabetes.
diabetes, specifically the type 2 diabetes. So what is the cause and how can we manage this menace so that it doesn't become a serious problem than it already is right now?
Okay, you know, talking about diseases, we have what we call risk factors, and we have what we call predisposing factors.
Yeah.
You know, things like hereditary, things like lifestyle, even like gender. You understand, right?
Yes.
So when these factors are more, when they are being increased, it's kind of it takes us closer to going down with these diseases. You know, sometimes age is also a factor, but there are also other factors apart from age. You get so things like I mentioned, lifestyle, diet. These are things that come into play. So acute diseases are different from chronic. Acute disease like malaria, these ones they just
They have a
happen
short,
suddenly and
yeah, they
all
have a
that. But
short span.
yes, but there are chronic diseases like hypertension, like diabetes. You know, what causes them doesn't just happen, it happens over time. It takes time. It can take years, it can take decades. You know, so that's why we see people that have diabetes, probably most of them are, you know, senior citizens, because this has been in their body for long. It has been accumulating. So when these, what I'm trying to say is that when these predisposing factors, when we keep exposing ourselves to these factors, it actually hastens the process. I mean, there is a kind of chain of reaction or series of events that make these things to happen. So when we actually expose ourselves to these factors more frequently, it kind of makes the disease actually happen faster. So let's say, for example, like diet. Diet affects everything about our bodies. You
Yes,
understand?
yes,
Some kinds of food we eat are actually detrimental. Some kind of food actually produce what we call radicals, and these radicals affect how our cells function, how our organs function. And you know, these days there are more of food that's actually not too healthy.
yes,
You get the culture these days, all these things affect what happens, and that is why most or some youth are coming down with this diabetes
yes.
mellitus.
Okay, so when you were talking about food now, one thing I know is that overly processed food, highly processed food,
Yes,
is a big
yes.
problem now. So even the lifestyle is also one of the things that causes people to even eat more of this kind of food. For example, now we have so many people, especially the youths, and I'm talking about people within the age of, let's say, about 18 to 40 now, let's just put it on that range. Most people work from home. Like since after COVID,
Yeah, yeah.
there has been this working from home thing or the hybrid. So sometimes you could just go to work, your workplace once in a week, and then every other day of the week, probably from Monday to Saturday, you're working
From
from home.
home.
So we get to see how that people are not as active as they should be. And then inactivity too can also make predisposed to this diabetes, obesity, because when people are fat, the cells are not as responsive. They're not
Yes.
as responsive to. So sitting down, sedentary lifestyle, not having a lot to do, would not kick start the cells or help the cells to respond to insulin as it should.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not allow the cells to respond to insulin as it should. So, and then you were talking about lifestyle, or maybe we should just stay a little bit around the diet now. So
Okay.
overly processed food, what other things do you think might be the cause too?
Um, Too much of carbohydrates. Okay,
Yes.
some of us don't get a balanced diet. You know, right from even primary school, we talk about balanced diet that
Yeah.
has the 6 classes for
So
food.
food, yeah.
And all these classes, they play their own roles. The
Yes.
vitamins and all, they play their own roles. And but the thing is that most of us, the food that are readily available these days, mostly carbohydrate and processed carbohydrates,
Yes. And
starch,
carbonated drinks,
yeah,
sugary.
soda and all you
Yes.
get. So that is why most of us don't get what essential things that are essential nutrients that our body need. We don't get them, and when we don't get these things, it's actually detrimental. It's actually detrimental. So
Yeah.
that is it's just like, for example, you have an engine or a generator or something like that, and you're using adulterated diesel or petrol or even oil. You probably you're supposed to get a good oil. You're using condemned oil on your generator.
Yes.
It's going to cause more harm than good.
Yeah.
You get, so most of the food we eat these days, or most of the food that are readily available, are like this condemned oil. Sorry to
Yeah.
say. You get, so definitely they would have roles to play
Yes.
in hastening the incidence of
Yes.
such diseases.
Progression. So just to sum it up for our viewers as regards diet, we are looking at eating more of natural or plant-based food. So we are
Exactly.
looking at fruits, vegetables, high food that is high in fiber, and we can have that in our oats. We can
Yeah.
have that in our potatoes. We can have that in our cassava, and then this cassava comes in different forms. We have it as gari, we
Fufu.
have it as fufu, cassava flakes, and all of that. But at the end of the day, I think there is still going to be a place of moderation because we're
Okay.
talking about carbohydrates. You see some people, when you ask them what did they eat in the morning, oh, I had rice. What did you have in the afternoon? Oh, I had spaghetti. What did you have or what are you having at night? Oh, I will have akpu. And so
Yeah.
there should also be a place of balance, okay? A place of balance. We should also focus on reducing our intake on these carbonated drinks, sugary drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can stick to making our own juice or taking more
Yeah.
healthier examples. Water cannot be underestimated. Water
Yeah.
is so important too. And then even people that cook, there is this thing of, oh, I cook my food, I don't buy all of that. But then we see how that some of the things that we use to cook are not very, very, very healthy.
Yeah.
Talking about things like
Canned
your
foods,
oil,
right?
yeah, canned foods,
Yeah.
all of that too. These seasoning powders, we
Yeah.
already know that this monosodium glutamate, all of these things are also hazardous to the health
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And then your method of cooking. So you want to bleach your palm
To
oil, you
overfry.
want to over fry, you want to reuse oil, you want to reuse oil.
Yeah.
All of that can also affect, can cause several problems within the body
Yeah.
that can eventually now lead to the diabetes.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go towards the area of physical activity too.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, the essence of exercise cannot be overemphasized because
Yes.
when you exercise, when you allow your body to work,
Yes.
it makes your body more will I say more
Sensitive.
sensitive. Thank you.
Yes.
You understand? So just like your heart, when you allow your heart to pump frequently, it's more efficient.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So the body should exercise, even if not like vigorous exercise, actually, as much as you can permit. Things like brisk walking, instead of always using the bus wherever you're going. If it's not that far, if it's not far, actually, you can walk as a form of exercise, just to allow your body to function, and not just sitting down all the time. Is actually detrimental to the health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like you rightly mentioned, bricks walking. In fact, even at your own space. I mean, people are working from home now. Most young people are working from home, so
Yeah.
you can have a routine at home. So you have your own
Exactly.
workout mats, and you could follow a workout session online. You have your routine. You could even actively go to the gym certain hours in a
Yeah.
day. or yeah, for certain hours in a day, all across the week, maybe 3 times in a week or so. You could go to the gym rather than take a bus when your junction from the junction to your house is not so much.
Or
You can
take
decide
rides all
to
the time.
take rides. You don't want to enter sun, you don't want to sweat. All of that eventually can cause problems in the
Yeah,
body
definitely.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can cause problems in the body too. And now let's look at the area of regular checkups. I think as regards medicine or health and well-being, early detection is
It's key.
better than management
Management.
or even cure. And
Yes.
in fact, to cure anything is actually much more expensive these days with the rising cost of drugs and all of that. So, what can we say as regards having a regular checkup?
Yeah, regular checkups are very important. Sometimes, in fact, most times, the diseases, they have complications.
Yeah.
And when you don't take care of these diseases in time, or when it's been poorly managed,
Manage, yes.
these complications would definitely come. So consider when someone does not even know he has or she has a condition, these complications would definitely come.
Yeah.
You get so I mean it's vital to go for checkups once a while to detect if you have any of the. I mean, when you find out in time, you start treating it in time. I have a relation that had diabetes. She did not know until it got to the extent that she went down with diabetic coma, a life-threatening situation. In fact, it's an emergency.
Yeah.
You get that was when they rushed her to the hospital, and when they checked her sugar level, they saw, oh, it's this high.
It was so
It was so
high.
high, you get, and that was when she was now being managed for diabetes.
Diabetes.
You get so I was not like had it been she used to check
Check. Should have
regularly.
known earlier.
She would have known earlier. You get, and this you also know the complications of coma.
Yeah.
Some brain cells can die
Die
and
in
all
that
that. You
process.
get
Yes.
so when you know in time, you take care of yourself in time.
Yes.
You get so I mean we should actually go for checkups
Yes.
regularly.
Yes. Regular checkups, and regular can be like twice in a year, maybe every 6 months.
Yeah,
Regular
yeah.
can also be like maybe once in a year.
Once in a
And then
year.
when you are going for this checkup, you're not just saying, oh, just go get your blood sugar test.
No.
Preferably, if you can have a head to toe checkup, let them check your organs. And because the truth is that diabetes is not just working on its own. Sometimes diabetes can be caused by some other existing medical conditions. So
Yes,
if the
yes,
person is already hypertensive, the person is obese, the
yes.
person already has some issues going
Can be a
on. It
complication
could
of
be a
another
complication of
condition.
another condition, exactly. So it's
Yes.
earlier you check it out and deal with it as necessary. Talking about complications, can we just touch a bit on the complications of this diabetes itself now?
Yeah, when we say complications, what we simply mean is what can go wrong
Yes.
when care is not taken.
Yes.
You get so when someone has diabetes, in fact, the complications comes from what actually happens. What does diabetes do? So, like we said, like the bus conductor thing we mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, there is actually enough sugar. Some people think diabetes is that they have too much sugar in their body, which is actually true. And that's when you see some of them, they urinate, they see ants come around. You get because
That's a
there's so
a
much,
sign.
yeah, there's
Yes.
so much
Yes.
sugar. So some of them think it's because they're taking too much sugar. That is why. But it's not. It's actually because the sugar is not being used.
Yes.
It's not being pushed out. You
Mobilized.
get so.
Yes.
So the complications when we have that much sugar in the blood, the blood contains cells and other solutes and solvents, and
Yeah.
then too much sugar, it harms a lot of things. It harms the nerves. It harms the cells themselves.
Yes.
It can harm the blood vessels. You get, and whatever harm it does has its consequence.
Yes.
You get, some people go down with what we call retinopathy, blood vision and all. Some people go down with hypertension because there are something we call comorbidities, some diseases
Yes.
that work hand in hand.
Yes.
You get, if someone develops this before you
They
know
can
it,
likely
this
develop
would
the
come up.
other.
Okay, so
Yes.
these are complications of diabetes.
Yes. And even talking about that nerve issue is so terrible because nerve affects how we can feel or perceive things.
Yeah,
They
yes.
transmit information to the brain that will interpret it and send signals to the body. Oh, okay, you touch this thing is hot. Remove
Yes,
your hand from
exactly.
it. So
Exactly.
when there is a problem with
The
nerve,
nerves.
it's so bad. One particular complication of this diabetes as regards to the nerve, we have this diabetic foot ulcer. So what
Exactly.
happens is that this person that already has this diabetes now, the nerve has been affected. So now they cannot feel on their foot as they would. So they could step on something and they have a sore, they have an injury. Now, for the normal body that is not having a lot of sugar in the bloodstream, the body can easily heal up. I mean, there's so many times as children, and even while we are older now, we have had cuts and injuries, and we didn't really bother as much about it. But the problem with diabetes is that now the nerve is compromised, the person is not feeling as much. And then because there is glucose in the bloodstream, microorganisms thrive in places where there
They
is,
need sugar
yeah,
too.
they need sugar, they need energy too. They also have sweet tooth. So they also want this thing. So
Yeah.
rather than the sore healing up, it progresses. It just keeps eating. And when you look at the food, most times you have to amputate it depending on the stage. But most times it progresses,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
have to amputate it.
Amputate.
And now with the issue of antibiotics resistance, which is another topic altogether, that's a problem. So antibiotics are not responding as much now to some things that they used to respond to well 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and the rising cost of drugs, in fact, rising cost of everything in Nigeria. So it's a problem. At the end of the day, prevention is still always
It's the best option.
going to be cheaper. It's
Yeah.
still always going to be the best option. So finally, just before we close, some of the symptoms of diabetes, because some people might be having some things going on. At the end of the day, we're not saying that you should self-diagnose, but these are telltales, like these are things that you should be on the lookout for. But even rather than being on the lookout for it, go have a regular check, go get yourself checked. But some of the symptoms of diabetes.
Okay, like we mentioned earlier, blurred vision.
Yeah.
It can be a symptom of diabetes.
Excessive urination.
Yes.
Yes, excessive urination too.
Yeah, because the kidneys they filter urine, and what happens is there's something called osmosis. When the concentration is higher, it kind of releases more fluid. You get, so when there's too much sugar and all, it releases more fluid. So excessive urination is part of it.
Yeah. They're also very, very tired. The glucose that should be moving into the cells are in the bloodstream. So the person is not getting as much
Yes,
energy.
exactly.
So they are tired. They're also very thirsty. So there's excessive thirst. There is also weight loss because the glucose are not being moved into the cells. So the body will now try to break down fats to convert it
gluconeogenesis
to glucose.
glucose.
So you see there's weight loss, and that process in its own can also become toxic eventually if it continues.
Yeah.
So these are a whole lot of things that we have said today. And at the end of the day, remember that our emphasis is on the type 2 diabetes, majorly on that. For the type 1 now, it's more of they will still, like you rightly said, insulin is not being produced as much. So eventually they will still need to they will be on insulin for life to supplement for the insulin that's not being produced. So do you have anything you would like to say in closing as regards diabetes? Anything maybe for the audience to take note of? Just a take-home remark.
Okay, yeah. What I would say is that we just have to, first of all, know that diabetes can happen to anyone, not just the elderly people. It can happen to anyone. And what can trigger it, or what can prevent it, or what can slow it down is just lifestyle. It's just lifestyle. So we should just take these things seriously. Our diets, activities, regular checkups. We should just take them more seriously, and I think we should be fine.
All right, Madu, it was a great time here. I'm sure our viewers have learned a thing or two. I learned several things. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for coming. So follow us on all our social media platforms at KnowItToo. So you subscribe, you can comment and drop your questions if you have any. So we'll see you again on our next show.